Hello, I'm back with another quarterly reflection. 3 months have passed since the last one of these, and I thought it was a good time to check in again with myself and reflect on what's happened over the past quarter, sort of summarize and organize all of these various improvisations and explorations and experimentations into something of a more coherent narrative or understanding of all of that process. And so that's what this video is going to be. It's going to be me pulling all of these threads together and also talking directly a little bit about what I'm thinking about right now, because the channel does a great job of documenting the output of what I'm thinking about. But sometimes it's nice to tune in and directly articulate and capture what's going on in my head musically. So in this quarterly reflection, I'm going to talk about what happened this past quarter. I'm going to talk about what I'm thinking about in my work right now. And then I'm going to look forward a bit to the next quarter and close with a selection of moments that I particularly enjoyed from improvisations this past quarter. If you're new to my channel, hello. This is my sound journal for me, Fonnet/Kilo Llama, where I have been documenting all of my explorations with noise and experimental sounds and finding my own process into music. Most of my videos this quarter were with the no input mixing board. There were a lot of improvisations that I think really expressed a variety of approaches with the mixing board as an instrument. I think that variety really captures me trying to figure out what my approach and sound is to this thing. I think this quarter in particular marks a transition from asking the question, what sounds are possible with the mixing board, to asking the question, what sounds do I want to be working with to make music on the mixing board? And I feel like I'm getting towards an answer on that, but it might not be evident from all of the videos that have come out over this past few months, because they're exploring so many different things that I'm testing out as I'm finding that direction. In this process of experimentation and finding my direction, I also put out a technique roundup video that has lots of small but really essential techniques in it for the way that I'm currently approaching the mixing board. Things like the mute envelopes and the compact noise channel that I have on the 1402 here. Just some really essential constructions for making the mixing board do what I want it to do. Alongside the mixing board, I also did a few videos with the Hikari Instruments Monos paired with the Chase Bliss Mood. These two electronic objects together. And that was a really fun, small combination where I feel like because of the limitations to just using those two devices together, I started approaching them with an openness to a broader range of sounds being produced from those devices. In the past, when I was working with the Monos, I thought that it had a very particular sound, and I would seek it out when I wanted that particular sound. But by doing this series of videos with the Monos and the Mood and saying, what are all of the different things that I can get with this, I think that I instead started to see the broader range of possibilities with it as a device. And that was very refreshing. I think that those Monos and Mood videos also capture some of the less structure or gesture-oriented pieces of music and the shift towards texture and the extension of a singular moment that I've been feeling in my approach to music lately. The other main instrument that I've used on this channel, on and off, is my Eurorack system. And I did a couple of videos with it after switching things up and talking about some of the new modules that I put in last quarter. And then I decided to stop featuring it quite so much on the channel. And I think that's in part because I've been continuing to focus more on the mixing board, but it's also because I keep making changes to that case. I think I'm happy with it now, I say again a few months later, but it keeps changing. I did take it with me on vacation for a week. I was really happy with the results that I was getting with it as a sound palette, and I recorded a lot of stuff with it on vacation that week after making these changes to it. But while I'm in that process of still figuring it out, I don't know, I don't want to put it on the channel quite as much. I'm still finding my approach to using the Eurorack system as a performable object, which is the type of thing that I feature with these improvisations on this channel. And reflecting on that, I realized that I'm really missing that small case that I was using with the pendulum in it that I featured last winter. And I think that I'm going to be getting back to something like that in the next few months. The final thing that has been a big change for the channel these past few months is that I'd say the visual presentation of the channel has changed in that time. I'm experimenting with titles. I'm still not entirely sure where I'm going to settle with the titles, but I think it's moving in a direction that's interesting. And I'm starting to become really happy with the color and lighting for here. And for those out there who make videos in this sort of amateur capacity that I make videos, I feel like I have learned a big lesson. I thought that I needed light, but what I actually needed was a little more understanding on color grading. I used to record with a separate light that came down onto the mixing board from another side, and it got me fairly good light, but I've since gotten rid of that, and I'm just using my desk light and doing everything to correct the footage with color grading instead. It takes a few minutes. I found a process that works well for me. I picked up a new skill, and I wish I had known earlier that I could fix so much of my visual appearance for the lighting of objects in the color grading step. I would have never needed to try to get a second light. I'm very happy with the results that I'm getting with just my desk lamp right now. The thing that is most on my mind at the moment is this idea of extended moments with music, that I'm looking at textures that aren't changing with the dynamicism of a narrative piece or a sort of a roller coaster that is taking you along on a particular ride, but instead presenting a sonic object that persists in time. And it's not, I wouldn't call it ambient, because the thing that I'm trying to create here is not a background. It's not a sound environment to exist in. It's an object still to be pondered. And towards that end, most of my music time has actually been devoted to working on another album for the past few weeks. It's been about 6 months since Feedback Mixing, my first album, came out. And I think that it's time for me to gather some work together and present another album of material. For me, I see the album very much as a documentation of where I'm at in my musical process. Similar to this channel, similar to this video, but in a different format, which is to produce a piece of music that stands for itself, that attempts to articulate these ideas as a piece of music. And not that its purpose is to articulate that music. I think the purpose of the album is to be a musical object or a set of musical objects that one has an aesthetic experience with, but it's one that I hope contains the ideas that I'm thinking about and causes the listener to reflect on the things that I'm thinking about when I'm making the album. And so, all that simply to say, I'm working on another album right now. And that's the sort of thing that I'm very closed off about as it's happening. But I will talk more about it in the next few months as I get closer to release. And that's actually a nice transition into looking forward. What's next? This album I am planning on putting out at the end of September. So I have a little more time to finish recording and then to do some mixing and get everything organized. And you'll hear more about that on the channel, I'm sure. But in the meantime, I have a brief series of videos that I'm looking forward to sharing about returning to my first synthesizer with my current perspectives on noise and sound, and using that as a point, as a jumping off point for talking about that journey into synthesis, but also to provide a lot of insights into how I would approach that instrument differently now that I've been spending so much time with the no input mixing board, with the more generative, chaotic types of patching in Eurorack. I think there will be a lot of fun things to pick apart coming back to my first synthesizer. And so those videos will be coming out soon. But otherwise, I think it's pretty much business as usual right now. I'd like to continue experimenting with the mixing board. And I think the last video that I just put out on a more minimal approach to the mixing board is where I'm going to stay for a few weeks and then see where my path takes me from there. But I think that I'm finding that direction right now. And so I hope that you continue to enjoy what I'm putting out. I hope that I continue to enjoy what I'm putting out, most importantly. And yeah, if you have any questions, if there's anything that you'd like me to talk about, let me know in the comments. And I'm going to cut to some of my favorite selections from this past quarter. I hope you enjoy.